Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Riverwalk Talk. My name is Chip Harrington. I started the show a little while ago on the Riverwalk here in Ludlow to talk about different issues or people and just kind of cover some topics that are taking place. And I've been involved in town government for many, many years. I'm not really involved nearly like I used to be. But I can say one thing that Ludlow does really, really well is take care of its senior citizen population. We have a Ludlow Senior Center that used to be at the old Chestnut Street school. That's where I went to school actually for fifth and sixth grade. And they recently moved over to a brand new, really state-of-the-art, beautiful facility and offers some really tremendous services to our, people in town. And, as the baby boomers are getting older and kind of moving into that sort of generation, services are needed, and there's more and more services provided. So I thought it'd be really great today to talk to the director of the Council on Aging and Senior Center, Jodi Zepke. Hey, Jodi, how are you?
Good.
I'm going to come over to you. So I know I sent you one episode of my little show here. So the concept here is we're going to start here at the cul-de-sac and we're going to walk 1.1 miles.
Okay.
You're going to get steps in, which is wonderful, on a beautiful day, and talk about Senior Center, Council on Aging, and Jodi Zepke. I want to learn a little bit about you, which would be kind of fun. So let's go. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Thanks for accepting my invitation. I know you had a meeting this morning. I emailed Jodi a while ago and said, hey, I'd like to have you on the show. And she's like, sure. And then I got an email from her this morning. She's like, I'm going to be late. I got a meeting. I got some things to do. But thank you so much for taking some time. So
thank you for having me.
yeah, it's wonderful. And you haven't been to this section of the river. We were just driving here.
I have not. I knew that it had been built, but I didn't realize it was this long.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty cool. So this part up here, if you guys haven't seen the show before, you can go to my YouTube channel and see the past shows, but this is kind of where the Riverwalk sort of starts and goes all the way down. But this is for future expansion here. So, one thing I have learned is that I need to walk a little slower because as we talk...
Listen, I am a super fast walker, so...
So walking and talking is okay?
Do it all the time.
Okay, so I've made that mistake before where I walked too fast. So, as I was just saying at the top of the show, as a town, I think we really do, we do a lot of great things, but one thing that I'm really proud of is how we support our senior population. How did you get into the position that you're in right now? What's your background?
So I started working in geriatrics when I was in high school. I think I was like 16 or 17. I worked at a local nursing home. I went to college. I was bio pre-med until I took my first biology class and said, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And then I kept coming back to geriatrics, but there was no such thing back then.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much. So I had switched colleges, switched degrees. I got my degree in psychology, and I was at Boston University where they had started kind of some geriatric type programs and got a certificate of gerontology. Took a couple of years off, and then again, knew I needed a master's, but there were no master's programs in gerontology. Again, I'm a little old.
You're younger than me, I think.
So I had started looking, there was only 2 master's programs in the entire country.
Wow.
So I ended up going to Springfield College and I got my master's in rehabilitation counseling and services, and I specialized in geriatrics.
Wow. So your undergrad is at BU?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
It's kind of a loaded question.
Is it really?
I was born in Westfield,
Okay.
lived in Connecticut, moved to Maryland, moved back to Massachusetts. Pretty much been in Mass until I got married and we bought our house in Somers, Connecticut.
Okay.
So a northeastern girl.
Yeah, so I guess that is a loaded question. You've been all over the place. So you got your master's from Springfield College at the
Yes.
time. And what was your first kind of official position in the geriatric world?
So I had to do an internship, and I did my internship at Greater Springfield Senior Services. And then I finished that and graduated, and they offered me a job.
Okay.
So I got my first position there, making a whopping $19,000 a year.
Yeah, right.
But I loved it. So I had a caseload that was like Palmer, Brimfield, Holland, and Wales.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, the one person that a lot of them saw. And so it was good.
We're coming up on 2 puppies. We have to make room for the puppies. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, puppies. See, I love. There's, as I do this river walk, there are so many dogs out here.
Yes.
And it's been really cool. So
anyway, I needed I was looking for a change, and a friend of mine had showed me the job posting, and I said, I'm not qualified for that. And she
Yeah.
said, Jodi, you have a master's degree. So I applied, and it was quite the process, and at the end of it, I was chosen for the position.
quite the learning curve, I would imagine too. So that was actually right in the position you are now. And you said
Yes.
before we started filming this was 23 years ago you've been doing this?
23 years on April 16th.
Wow, good for you. That's amazing. And I mean, we're going to get into like the whole evolution of kind of where you were and kind of where you are now. But when you first kind of stepped into, the town and really kind of doing that day-to-day work, what was your first impression? Did you feel like you were underwater?
Oh, yes. That, and everybody thought I was 12.
That's
It was,
true.
Whose granddaughter's that? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm the new director. So it was a little reverse ageism at the time.
Right.
But it was just, finding my way. I think a lot of the, in the old building,
Yeah.
we did really well with what we had. My predecessor was a male, and so I put a woman's touch on the building.
Mm-hmm.
Painted, cleaned, and then just slowly, changed some things up, added programs, changed our nutrition program.
Yeah.
It took time.
Yeah, well, you're still at it for sure. As I kind of said at the top of the show there, the baby boomers are kind of moving up into that retirement generation, and they're a large group of the whole country. How have you experienced, or how have you felt that change in this community as far as your population growing?
So the population over 60 in town is almost 30%.
Wow.
And then 55 plus is almost 40%, I believe. We just did all the numbers for age and dementia friendly. So it is growing. It was really interesting to be closed for a year and a half during COVID.
Yeah.
And then to open in a brand new building.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a different demographic. A lot more people coming to visit. It's not an old building, so got a
Yeah.
lot more younger seniors now. I think our average age is 70 to 74,
Okay.
but we have a huge 90 plus population, which is really awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We're gonna go this way here. So, over the years, as you've kind of evolved, and again, I want to talk about the new building in a little while, but as you've evolved, what kind of outreach have you done to kind of pull people in? Because I was a member of the Board of Selectmen back in the 90s, and not that it was a struggle, but it was, we had people that just, oh, I'm old, the senior center's for old people, I don't want to go there.
Yes.
And then when they get there, they're like, it's kind of like the Boys and Girls Club when you're 14 years old. There's so many great programs.
Yeah. I also think that the senior centers have evolved so much over the last 20 years. It was always kind of like a place you went and you hung out, you played bingo.
Yep.
And it's so not that anymore. We have so many different programs that, and we have wellness, we have outreach, we have so many different things that it's not, quote unquote, the place for old people.
Right.
We call it's the place to come and live out your retirement years, because it's pretty awesome.
Yes, it is. I've been there numerous times. Was it Tai Chi or yoga? You've got all that stuff going on up there.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Lots and lots.
So, getting back to you a little bit. So you're a mom, a wife, a professional. How do you balance that? Because
Well.
as a department head, you're dealing with budgets, you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with everything that a manager deals with. How do you find that balance?
No 2 days are alike. And I think that's the great thing about my job, is that every day is different. Some days are harder than others. I think that's like that in anything in life.
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with quote unquote monotony, because it's different every day.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's going to be 10 next month, so she's a little bit more self-sufficient, thankfully. She's grown up around the senior center, so she loves coming to the senior center. and lots of wine. That's how I get through the
That's
day.
kind of through the night, not through the day, through the evening maybe. So it truly is. Because I'm sure there's times where it's 9 o'clock at night, your phone's blown up, something's going on, there's an incident, and you're the boss, right? You got to make a decision. How many people work at the senior center in the Council on Aging?
There's 13 of us total.
Okay. What are the different kind of departments you have under you?
So there's the assistant director, outreach, activities director, activities assistant, dispatcher, 3 drivers, cook, custodian, like a payroll clerk.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I missing?
Yeah.
Front desk, like an administrative assistant.
Yep.
I have an unbelievable team.
You really do.
Yes, I could not run the center without them. That and the volunteers. I mean, we have 150 volunteers.
Do you really?
And
what kind of work do the volunteers do?
you name it, they do it.
Oh
Everything from gardening and taking care of the grounds to working in the kitchen to taking blood pressure to teaching classes.
wow. Okay.
We truly could not run it without them.
I must say, Christine, your cook, your head cook, chef, went to high school with her. We were in a play together. We were in Streetcar Named Desire.
I'm gonna ask her about that.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And she was my wife. We had an onstage kiss.
She never told me that.
She's probably embarrassed to admit that, and I don't blame her. So, but yeah, great staff over there. So the evolution of the senior center and the Council on Aging. So like I said, you guys originally started at the old Chestnut Street building.
Yes.
Me and Christine went to school there. We were in 5th and 6th grade over there.
Most of my seniors went to school there
Yeah,
in some capacity.
I guess I'm 56. I guess I'm in that senior world now. But we did go to school there, and then that building closed. That was the original high school, as you
Yep.
you know, and that building kind of closed down. And I know I'm going back to like 1981, 82, when they said, okay, what are we gonna do with this space? And it was great back then, but then it quickly outgrew the space that was available.
Yeah, I mean, it just was not older adult friendly. I mean, there were
Yeah.
so many barriers in that building, and it was huge. It was 24,000 square feet,
Yeah.
but only 10,000 of it was usable square footage.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just completely outgrowing it. The issues with the building were beyond anything that we could fix or Band-Aid. I mean, we Band-Aided so many things in that building. I think back now, and again, we did really well with what we had, but to walk into the new building,
Yes.
I mean, I remember the first time I went back to the old building and I was like, wow.
How did I exist here, right?
Yeah.
You wonder about that. Yeah, it was an old space. That used to be our old cafeteria space. And above that is the apartments, of course, for
Yes.
the Council on Aging.
Well, no. Ludlow Housing Authority.
Ludlow Housing. Yep. Sorry
Two
about that.
completely different things.
Yes,
That
you're-
was the first question when we started plans for the new building is where's everybody going to live? I was like, nobody lives at the senior center.
Yes, that is very, very true. Does every how are you? Does every town have a senior center?
So not every town has a senior center. Every town has a council on aging,
yeah.
which is the town department.
Mm-hmm.
The senior center is the actual building. I'm trying to think of how many senior centers are in the state. I don't know that number off the
Yeah.
top of my head, but a lot of towns do have senior centers, but everybody does have a council on aging, whether it's all volunteer based or one employee to, some councils or some senior centers that have 30 employees.
Yeah. What's the sort of chain of command as far as like Council on Aging? You're the director. You kind of run the day-to-day operations.
Yep.
You have to go to board meetings, I would assume.
So I have a 11-person advisory board,
Mm-hmm.
and they are the Council on Aging board. And then pretty much I answer, I believe, to the town administrator and board of selectmen.
Mm-hmm. You're hired by the board.
I was hired by the board of
Board of
selectmen.
Selectmen,
Yes.
exactly. So getting back to the transition from the old Chestnut Street facility to where you are now, how did that discussion? I know there was a fundraising component to that as well.
It took a lot of years. We had started off kind of privately doing our own thing with some. The Friends did feasibility study.
You're talking about the Friends of the
Ludlow Senior Center.
Yeah.
We had gotten a donation from Joe McCormack. She had left the Friends of the Ludlow Senior Center some money in her will. And then we kind of took some of that and started the whole senior center, building campaign. We did the feasibility study and then went to the Board of Selectmen. And then we went to town meeting to have a building committee formed.
Yep.
And I'm trying to, that was 2016 maybe?
Yep. Yeah.
And then the committee was formed and we did our due diligence for a couple of years looking at, renovating what we had, but the town doesn't own the building. To looking at every piece of town property. We looked at everything. We looked at Vets Park. We looked everywhere. And we came back to our current, where we currently reside.
Yeah, I remember that discussion as well. I was a member of the school committee at the time, and we were looking at redoing Chambers Street School. So it was kind of like, oh my God, we don't want to compete against the, senior center and the Council on Aging, because it had to be a townwide vote because you were looking to raise and appropriate a certain amount of funds. And I do remember the discussion because we knew we were going to be closing Veterans Park. And many people, I'm sure, have said to you, as they've said to me, is like, well, why didn't they just go over there?
Oh, yeah.
But the reality was that to renovate Vets Park as it was actually going to cost the town of Ludlow more money than it was to build a new facility that they have over here.
Yes, it was going to be twice as much.
Yeah, because you're looking at lead paint and asbestos and the whole thing, and then just, windows.
Not even that, it was concrete with rebar.
Yeah.
You can't, one of my building committee members, I remember when we took a tour, he was standing in the middle of the classroom and he looks at me and he goes, if there's ever a tornado, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
This place is solid.
Yeah. Oh,
but,
yeah.
Solid, yes, but not able to renovate.
Yeah.
So,
Affordably.
but again, we really did our due diligence and we looked at everything. And some people don't realize like how much work you actually do behind the scenes. It was a second full-time job for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got your committee, got the appropriation, found the location over there. Oh, tell me about the design process at the time. How'd you work through that?
Well, you obviously go RFP and bid and everything. But ultimately the contract was awarded to Dietz Architecture out of Springfield. So we started designing, and it takes, so many different designs before you really find the design that you're going to build. And at the time we came over and we visited the mills. We went inside, we went into one of the apartments because I really wanted the building to mimic the mills. Hence like our windows, we have the green windows, kind of like the mill buildings.
Right.
Because we were at the end. So I really wanted it to be, cohesive with the neighborhood.
Yeah, you really did keep that. If anybody hasn't been over there, we'll talk at the end here about how you can contact Jodi and other people up there. But if you haven't been over there, you really do feel like you're part of the mills. There's old Ludlow mill pictures. Isn't a lot of the brick taken from some of the buildings here?
So actually, no, we couldn't reuse the brick because the brick was so old. It was so Health South does have some brick, but it's just decorative. You couldn't build with it. So unfortunately, we do not have brick from the old building.
Oh, okay.
I can't wait to see this building.
I know. So we're walking by the new Tandem Bagel right now, and I think I looked at their website recently, and it says they're going to be opening like before summer. But
I'm not gonna lie, like I really wanted to try and like take over one of the buildings down here and incorporate it into the design, and there just wasn't the space.
Yeah.
Because you got to take into account parking and all of that. But there's another building up here that I absolutely love, and we had looked, but it was not feasible.
Yeah, the whole mill project is really just going so great for everybody. So you got your design done as far as the new senior center where you are now. So if those of you who haven't been down here, they're on State Street. What's the actual address, the physical address?
228 State.
228 State Street. And before they were there, it was really just a wooded lot. It was really
I
just...
cried when they cut down all the trees.
I know.
But I was excited too. So, you work so long on a project to actually like watch it start, and it was so exciting.
Yes. And it was during COVID, right? Was this happening during COVID?
Yeah, well, we broke ground in December of 19.
Yep.
We had a big shovel in the dirt type thing. And then the world shut down in March,
Yeah.
and we built all during COVID. The
Yeah.
building was actually completed in December of 2020. We got our certificate of occupancy in February of 21. There was some little minor things that needed to be fixed. And then we moved in, and then we opened the doors as soon as the mask mandate dropped. So we opened the doors June 1st of 21.
Oops.
Sorry.
Dropped her tissue. It's a little chilly out, but not too bad. So was it not that inconvenient because of COVID taking place, or did that not really affect the
It
plan?
really, thankfully, it didn't really affect us. When COVID first started, the building wasn't enclosed, so they didn't really have COVID protocols.
Yep.
And then by the time the building was enclosed, there were still certain restrictions, but the builders did a great job.
Yeah.
I was very, very lucky with the builders, and just the super on the job. His name's Fred Schneider. He was the bomb diggity.
Yeah.
I just call him my work boyfriend.
Everybody needs one of those, right?
Yeah.
So you open. Again, this is just at the tail end of COVID. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
How did your population expand, increase, or how did you reach out to let people know that hey, this is a new way of going?
I didn't have to.
They just all showed up, really?
So when we first moved in, I had actually gotten permission. Like once our furniture was delayed, that was probably the only thing that really got delayed in the whole process was our furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And once that came in, I had asked permission to do some tours. So people had to call and sign up. I think we did 6 people at a time. They had to be masked,
Right.
social distancing, but we did tours of the building, which was exciting because people were just chomping at the bit to see the inside.
Yeah.
So many of them drove by during the whole process that they wanted to see the inside.
Yeah. So that's the physical location where you are. There's always a worry out there about people who are just kind of shut-ins that never really kind of get out. Maybe their family's around, they can't physically get around. How, as a director, do you reach out to that population for outreach?
We really try to get people to know that we're here.
Yep.
Sometimes people don't reach out to us until they need us, and that's fine because morning they
I'm gonna stop here.
oh good, I can catch my breath.
Well, you were definitely speed walking. I tried to slow down, but you kept on going. So
That's all I do all day.
it's your fault. So as far as outreach go, continue. How do you?
So it's more of sometimes that people don't need us right away, but when they do, they know where we are and who we are.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people that aren't going to come to the senior center, and that's unfortunate because it really is such a great place. We have transportation for those that don't drive, and then obviously we have a lot of information and referral services through outreach, and Debbie's a wealth of information and can help people.
Yeah. So talk about Debbie for a second. I know when my dad, was around, and my mom too, they worked with her. She was incredibly helpful, just as being supportive in finding services for them. What kind of opportunities does she offer seniors?
It's in combination with our, with our whole staff, and we have a Shine volunteer who helps with insurance needs.
Yeah.
She does everything from, reaching out to people to referring people for services to, there's so much.
Yeah.
She is a wealth of information.
She really, really is. If somebody in town is watching this right now and they're like, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot, what's the best way they reach out to you guys?
Walk in our front door.
Okay.
It's the best thing to do. People call all the time, and I'm like, you know what? A lot of times we'll get loved ones that'll call saying, I want to bring my dad in or my mom in. And I'm like, your best bet is to put them in the car and pull in our parking lot and walk in, because
Right.
you really can't explain it until you're there. And the best part is if you grew up in town, you're going to know somebody in that building. And a lot of people don't realize that they have friends already there.
Yeah.
And everybody is super friendly. It's just it's a really great place. I like to say it's kind of a little of a oasis from everything that's going on in this world. No one talks politics. No one's on their cell phones.
Yeah.
people sit and chat and the way it used to be.
Yeah.
So
What's a typical day for an individual? Because I've been over there. I know in the morning you've got your kind of coffee bar area where people come over and kind of just chat, read the paper, talk about whatever.
So the cafe, when we were designing the building, obviously I had a big hand in how things are laid out in the building, and the cafe came out exactly the way I pictured. Like, there are people that sit and read the paper, read the news on their phones, or they sit and they have coffee. There's little groups that meet every morning in the cafe, and it's just great to look out and to see that space is so utilized. My only mistake is it's too small, like everything else.
It's actually not that small, really.
No, it's big,
Yeah.
but it's always crowded.
Yeah.
Friday mornings, you're not getting a spot in there, so it's but it's a great space.
And then, so that's kind of a morning. Then
So
how do you
your
roll into
typical,
lunch?
our typical day is that we have so many simultaneous activities. Like I'm trying to think on Wednesday what there's opera appreciation, there's jewelry, there's tea with the TA, there is healthy bones and balance. That's just this morning. So we have exercise classes, art classes, education, then we have lunch, and then after lunch there's Mondays there's pitch, Tuesdays there's bingo, Wednesday there's a movie, Thursday's Mahjong, Friday's exercise, and then there's other things mixed in with that, and then Maria, our activities director, does an awesome job of filling in the calendar. I mean, we have over 190 things going on each month.
Wow, that's amazing. How many people come in and out of your door on a weekly basis or monthly basis?
I would say 300 to 400 a day, depending on the day and depending on what's for lunch.
Yeah, lunch is a big thing.
Lunch is huge.
Yeah. And what's the cost?
$2.
$2 for a pretty amazing lunch every single day.
Yeah, so today is beef stew. It's homemade with cornbread. You get coffee or tea. There's water on the table. Dessert. I mean, lunch every day is amazing.
How big is your cafeteria? How many
It holds 240 comfortably.
Yeah.
So today we have 149. Yesterday we had 130 yesterday. And then last week we had meatloaf, we had 185.
And people need to sign up. You can't just say
Yeah,
walk to the
so
door.
it's a 24 hours in advance because obviously we need to know how much to cook,
Right.
what to take out of the freezers. Pretty much we can estimate, depending on what the meal is and the day, of how many people we're going to get. So that's kind of what we use when we are ordering, because we order every 2 weeks. So we're pretty good at estimating.
Yeah. So, lunch takes place. What's the rest of the day? How's it roll?
We have afternoon activities. I will say things probably quiet down about 3:30. We close at 4, except for on Tuesdays we're open till 7.
Okay.
So we have on Tuesday evenings we have a power pump class. We have a craft class once a month. We have trivia once a month. We have a grief support group once a month. What else do we have? Movies every Tuesday. We do a super supper in the cafe once a month. So there's different things going on. It's not as busy as during the day, obviously, but we are still there.
Yeah. Weekends? Anything taking place on weekends?
No, I don't have the staff.
Okay.
To open the building, you got to have staff.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, it's really great. I've been there numerous times. If you haven't been there, like Jodi just said, just get the car and just go over there. If somebody wants to get a tour, who's available for that?
So our dispatcher Dave gives a phenomenal tour. Like we can't even touch the way he does a tour. He's awesome.
Yeah.
So the tours are great. He goes through every little thing about the building. You'll get a new member packet which has more information about programs and transportation and how to sign up. There's a free lunch ticket in there.
Yeah.
So
now that the mills are kind of, more than up and running, there's more expansion.
Oh, yeah.
How has that impacted
Oh,
you? Because
boy.
this is 55 and up.
yes,
Yeah.
we have seen quite a few from Mill 8. It was kind of funny when Mill 10 opened because we were over here on Chestnut Street and we saw quite a bit of people when that opened. We're seeing a lot of new people from Mill 8. And I was at a Board of Selectmen meeting when somebody said something about Mill 11 and I went,
Yeah. That's even bigger than all these.
yeah.
Yeah.
So needless to say, that makes me a little nervous, but we're up for the challenge.
Yeah. So Mill 8 is right behind us. That's the clock tower building. I'm sorry, that's Mill.
That's
That's Mill 8. Mill 10 is the building next to it. And then future expansion, potentially, we don't know everything yet, but is Mill 11, as you mentioned. There's a lot that needs to happen before
Yeah.
that happens. But I believe, I don't know how many this one has right here, but
So Mill 8 is 95 units and Mill 10 is 75 units.
and then Mill 11 could be up to like two something.
That's gonna be a lot.
Yeah.
It's a huge building. But out of all the buildings, I think that's the neatest one.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't see it because of that storage building in the front, but
Yep.
it's a beautiful building.
Yeah.
And if it's as intact as these guys are, it's gonna be gorgeous.
Yeah, it is great.
They've really done a beautiful job.
We're so fortunate, to have this taking place, and
Yeah.
you guys are certainly benefiting from it as well too. So that's your kind of typical day in advance. You mentioned that you have 3 vans that are
We
out
do.
and about. I remember there was one van, and that was a challenge to go to town meeting and even get that back in the day.
Yeah, so we have we got a new 14 passenger just before COVID. We have an old Mass, it's like a Mass DOT grant van, which is we're actually got awarded a new van to replace that, so that should be coming in June or July. And then we just purchased a new van with funds from the state. I had an earmark for the state. My friends group pitched in a large amount of money. I took some leftover grant money, and then the town pitched in about $25,000, and we got a van.
Yeah.
So the issue with vans now is A, they take forever to get, but B, the cost.
Yeah.
I mean, the 14 passenger was $78,000 before COVID. An 8 passenger was $126,000.
That's insane.
It's like,
It's
what?
crazy, the cost of things.
But we're super fortunate. I have a full-time driver, part-time driver, per diem driver, and a dispatcher who also drives. So the transportation schedules have been insane lately. So
Yeah.
most days, all 3 vans are on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these can get people to and from back and forth to the senior center, but also to appointments.
Yep.
And
So we travel anywhere in town.
Yeah.
Hairdresser. We go to Randall's and Big Y on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do a ton of PT appointments right now. Hairdressers. If you want to go to your friend's house, we'll drop you off and pick you up. Library, town hall, anywhere. As long as it's in town, we'll take you there.
Yeah. What a great service. It really is. It's
One of them just drove by.
Oh, really? Can we get it in the camera?
See?
So, but it really is such a great service, and the expansion under your leadership over the last 23 years, did you say? 23 years. And that's coming up just this month, right? In April?
Yeah.
So 23 years, Jodi Zepke has been the director of the Senior Center and Council on Aging, and maybe 23 years more? Is that what you're telling us right now? You're going to stay for another 23 years?
Well, I don't know about that. Let's get through year 24 first.
Yeah, right. Let's finish this month.
It's really is an amazing place to work. I've been very fortunate that the town has been so supportive. The town is already thinking forward to, the expansion of Mill 11 and kind of where that's going to put the senior center.
Yeah.
Obviously, the taxpayers supported us with the new building, which is, it's doing exactly what we had hoped it would do. We're seeing 2 to 3 times the number of people. And people, they come and they hang out and they enjoy it, and it's just a beautiful spot.
Yeah.
We had no windows in the old building.
Yeah.
I've got 67 in this one.
Yeah.
So, downside to that is I see what's happening with the weather outside. Before it would snow, we didn't know.
Yeah.
The sun was out, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Now I watch the sun.
It's funny that you know the exact number of windows you have in your building.
Yes.
67 windows.
67. Yeah. So. But there's still a lot of work to do. Centers are always evolving. We're always trying to outdo ourselves with bringing different programs and activities. We're planning for, 55 to 100. We have someone who's 100 and a half who comes to the center.
Wow.
And so there's very different needs and very different likes and dislikes between a population, that size. So, we're always working hard to try to accommodate. Some people like it, some people don't, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the center is free. Costs nothing to walk in the door. You can spend the entire day and not spend a dime.
Right. Yep.
So, and then everything is low cost. Nothing costs more than $2. Exercise classes are $2. Lunch is $2. Coffee's 50 cents. Danish is $1.
Yeah.
So it's affordable as well.
It really certainly is, for sure. And it's often said that our senior population is kind of our greatest natural resource, and that You got a lot of people with a lot of experience, a lot of intelligence in that building that
Yeah.
can offer each other support.
Well, I also have to plug the fact that we have just started doing what's called Age and Dementia Friendly, and it's probably about a 2-year process. It's being headed up by my assistant director, and it's to take a hard look at the livability and the aging in place in Ludlow, and we're super excited that we're going through the process. We put it off for many years because the old building wasn't age and dementia friendly. With the new building, we can do that. And it's about partnerships. We have a great committee. There's business leaders, there's town department heads, there's seniors, there's other people involved, and so they have started that. It's going to be a great designation once we get there.
Yeah.
And we also applied for a grant to add some signage and possibly benches along the Riverwalk.
Okay.
Looking forward to dementia friendly. We're obviously seeing a huge increase in dementia, and so there is no signs down here to point to the senior center.
True.
So we haven't heard about if we are awarded the grant, but we're pretty hopeful that we'll be able to add some signage, and I believe 2 benches.
Good.
So that people that walk can sit. So.
But just this Riverwalk alone, we see people doing laps all day long.
I will tell you, that's a great part of, good morning. That's the awesome part about the cafe is we have a beautiful patio. So when it's nice out, you just sit on the patio and you just watch everybody walk by. And it's great because a lot of people will do the walk and then come in and have coffee.
Yeah.
So, in the afternoon, they'll have lunch and then you'll see a group of them go for a walk. So this whole walkability is just awesome.
It's a great part of the whole community. It's so nice to do this. So there's no excuse. Get yourself over to the senior center. If you have somebody in town, if you're watching this from out of town, you have somebody who lives in town, reach out to the senior center and they'll go pick them up and bring them over there. Give them a tour.
Certainly will.
Yeah, for sure.
And we also have a lot of staff that's bilingual. Both 2 of the 3 van drivers speak Portuguese. So we have Portuguese speakers. I have volunteers that are Polish speakers. I'm trying to think what other languages we have. I do have a senior that speaks 5 different languages, so there's no excuse there either.
My buddy Jim Martin, he goes over there. He's fluent in French.
I did not know that.
Yes, he's there. He plays trivia over there.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes. I know you got to get back. It's lunchtime. You got to go right back to work.
Yes.
So
well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, really appreciate it. So that's going to do it for this week's show. Again, if you haven't been over to the senior center, it's a great resource to the town. Jodi's accessible at all times, along with her staff as well. So if you want to see past shows of the Riverwalk, look at the link below. I got my YouTube video. You can go there. It's also available on Facebook and Instagram, and please share it. Show some of your friends. So it's going to do it. Thank you very much. See ya.